Hey everyone, Temporal here, and for this session we are going to be reviewing a gold Orisa. If you guys are enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe, as that helps out quite a bit, and I really do appreciate that. Or if you are looking to get coaching yourself, you can join my Discord in the description below, see what rates look like, what sort of promos, special events there are, all that good stuff.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Round 1. Capture the objective.
Okay. Push up here with our Orisa. You take main rather than any sort of left side high ground control. Usually what you're going to end up doing, restart so we need our epic pen back. Usually what you will end up doing is you will go, hey, I would like to clear, meet them on high ground, etc. Or, and this isn't really what you do as often on Orisa. On Orisa, that's more what you'd like to do. You'd like to take that fight. I don't love it here. If you were playing this in a more brawly style, you could go over here. But going straight to point here, I don't love this. I'd have preferred to go left. Even if it wasn't like a hard brawl, meet them left, still left. So you drop your shield, and that's okay.
Move behind the barrier.
Great. Okay. So your timing's a little wrong. I see you go behind cover there for your reload, but you're not quite sure what the timing is, so you end up dancing back into the open quite a bit before you would want to deploy the shield. But conceptually, this is sort of okay on our reload timing.
You're not getting away.
That halt doesn't do you a ton of good. Like, I don't care if he hits that wall or not.
The objective is defense mode activated.
They think she's boring, man. I don't know what to tell you. So, here you are.
Not getting away.
You go for this. This we're good with, and you decide to like push in and fortify fight this. And there's just not a ton of need for you to push in and fortify fight this. Like, if we look at what this is, yes, you can brawl as Orisa with your fortify. But this Reinhardt's unhappy. He's here. His shield's broken. You don't need to push through this. You don't need to walk into this. You're perfectly fine. You are totally fine to continue to just shoot at this. Work yourself over to here. Keep yourself over here. Whatever you want to do. You don't have to walk at him to get... There we go. We have the complete option to go, hey, we push in here, we do the, excuse me. We have the option of going, we're going to shoot at this, and if he wanders left, which is what he's trying to do, he's just going to put himself behind your shield again, which is great. There's no need for you to walk in here and hard fight this with your fortify. You're sort of donating your fortify here, which you might want later. Your fortify is good when you're taking a lot of pressure. Your fortify is good when you're rotating because your shield isn't very good for rotations. You sort of can be that fortify for yourself and to help your team a little bit as they get to use your body as their shield. Like, that's what it's good for. Yes, if the Reinhardt was swinging at you, absolutely, but you didn't need to give him a shot to swing at you. Yeah, this fortify was nothing.
Please move behind the barrier.
Okay. Here, again, I don't think you necessarily even needed to deploy this barrier yet. I think you were keeping this perfectly honest. And again, now we've reloaded and we've got 30 ammo left. So we want to be a little aware of that because it's going to cause our next reload to be painfully long.
Not so fast.
Which can be okay if we have cover. Covers our shield. Fine. Sure. Okay. In a vacuum, who is favored in Diva versus Orisa? The question used to be at what range, because at long range it's definitely Orisa. At close range, I think it's probably now Orisa. It wasn't always, but I think now it's probably Orisa with how the fortify changes work, with how her damage is. Yeah, I think it's Orisa. Things are rarely in a vacuum, though. Okay, you're hitting this reload, and you're going to drop this here. Perfect! That's exactly what you wanted, but now you need to go take that space. Okay, shooting through the bushes is cute, but I'd like to see where we're shooting. Okay, so this is okay. It's not a big deal. Like it was a little bit better when it was tucked up against this, etc. But I'm definitely being nitpicky. I'm not sure why you're being quite this passive. Your shield is down. You don't need to just like gently barely peek this. You can see them if you want. Like you can see them if you want. You have a barrier down. Give yourself good sights at them. Give yourself nice good vision on them. There's no need to be like, oh, let me just play this just barely here. Like, yes, you want your cover, but you can tuck cover over here. Like, yes, it's rare to hear me say, oh, hey, get way out in the open, but you've been playing this in such a way where, remember, he can't see as well as we can, guys. Like, we get the silhouettes. You're really not giving yourself very much to see here, very much to work on. You're looking over here. Like, there's plenty there. There's plenty there. There we go. Now we can see some stuff. Why are we strafing? We don't need to, like, AD strafe this. We're behind cover, and no one's going to show up. And even if someone did show up on a flank to our right or something, our AD strafe wouldn't be useful against them. Okay. It was a lot of people. Okay, you got the elim. I hope you are going to lose your Lucio. Yeah, that was a lot of people to move, to sort of give up. Like, that one person bought them the choke. And you got the person, so that's usually okay. But that was a lot of resources to spend for that. When this fortifies, you better have a wall. You better have a wall. It's to your left. I'm trying, yeah. No, you've got... No. Your HP is so low here. I have no belief. No belief. Yeah. And now they're just going to take this down. So that was like a panic supercharger almost. You guys might still win this, but I don't particularly love that. The real issue here was you didn't get enough poke value on them. Like, this is really hard to advance through. This is really hard to advance through. It's a lot of open space. Brawl teams hate it. Poke teams love it when they have control of it. And you were like getting minimal contribution because you couldn't really see what you were shooting at. You were sort of finding targets, but at those max distances, I'm happy to just slam D.Va's head hitbox. Like, I am perfectly happy to just slam D.Va's head hitbox, especially if you're not super comfortable in your aim. If you're really, really confident in your aim, sure, you can be like, okay, I'm just going to track the BAP on the enemy team, and I'm going to hit, 60% of my shots as headshots, and it's going to be great. But at this distance, that's a little challenging, and you do put a lot of pressure on the enemy team just shooting tank's head hitboxes. That said, I'm not telling you to strictly do that. I'm saying at this particular range. Anyway, doesn't matter. You would have wanted to get more value here. You also needed to notice, wait, too many of my people left. I'm also not really the person who goes and peels this. I'm a main tank, not an off tank. I'm not really the person who goes and deals with, there's a McCree back here on the point, because I put a lot of pressure out here. I make it very hard for this team to advance through they're advancing. There's wind, there's Orisa shots, there's everything blowing in their face, and it's hard to walk forward into. Oh, the Orisa left. Okay, cool. Let's zoom along. Like, that's basically what happens when you turn and leave. So you don't really want to be the person that goes and peels like that. And then we talked about, the supercharger. Okay. You knew where that BAP was going to be. You hit the halt, you knew where the BAP was going to be. Okay. It's not a great shield, but... Whatever, I'll make my main support do it. Lucio, Brig, go deal with it. Okay, This is a little tough as a shield position because you're not actually going to have anywhere to go. Like, you've put this shield here, but you need to be thinking about getting yourself back to here, getting yourself back to here. And that's a problem because the McCree's right here. You need to be thinking about, this isn't a real permanent solution for me. Like, if they're pushing this, if they're breaking my shield, they can still see everything over there. So you don't really have good cover to use here, and that's not great. You need to be thinking, hey, I'd have actually liked to put the shield a little more to the left so that I could then shoot from behind my shield at this and then go behind cover when it breaks, or when I, yeah. McCree won't have fans, so he's a whatever hero now. Okay.
Barrier activated.
Oh boy, that hurts a little. So you have one shot left, and you're deploying this barrier rather than doing a reload cancel. Now you have a fresh barrier. These barriers only have 600 HP. And look at all this time.
So fast.
Before you're even able to get a single shot off, your barrier's lost a third of its health.
Position.
We want to be in places when our barrier breaks that we can be tucked behind cover, and we want to be, have enough clip, not 30 shots, not one shot, not 20 shots, etc. when we deploy fresh barriers, because barriers are like the beginning of go windows for our team, and we want to contribute during go windows for our team. Orisa is not about just, I place a barrier, it breaks, I place a new barrier, it breaks, place a new barrier, it breaks, I place a new barrier. She's not just like, I constantly shoot at the other team, the other team shoots at my barriers. That's not her thing. Her barrier is a go window, like a Reinhardt walking forward is a go window. For other times, there's, hey, we've got the Orisa has hard cover.
Overtime.
People on ladder complaining about not having a Rhino on all the time. People on ladder complaining. In one ear, out the other. Ask Temporal how to make her work for dive. Uh-oh. Okay. Great. Fine. The problem is now you're stuck. That's why that bear was only fine. Yeah. Okay, we're fortifying. We still have a ton of health. We might not have needed to fortify here. But you know what? This diva is used micro missiles. Missing health. We think we can punish her. And as soon as she turns around, you go for the halt.
Don't move.
Okay, fine. You go for the halt. You get these limbs. This is good. This is good. Here's the thing. Your fortify's over, so you don't have a great advancement tool. And if you commit your barrier right here, it's not amazing. If you commit your barrier right here, it's not amazing because, hey, this sort of marks my line in the sand, and he knows I don't have fortify anymore, so I can't really advance. Like, this barrier is it. It is all that you've got left to take space with, and you commit it here. The problem that you run into is, okay, well, I could commit it further, but then I have to trust, and this is dangerous, I have to trust my Sigma to block this shatter, which is really scary. I don't want to have to trust my Sigma to block this shatter. But this barrier is super passive. So what was the solution? The solution was probably just to shoot at him. You have plenty of health. You don't need a barrier down yet. You don't. You don't need a barrier down yet. And what's your barrier really doing? Protecting you from baby diva shots? Who cares? How much damage does Orisa take if she fortifies and Ryan charges her? What does Ryan normally do on a pin that doesn't actually pin? So 50, and that would be halved by fortify, 25, and 25 minus 5 for the armor. So my guess is 20 damage, but they might have made it 0 specifically for the interaction. Yeah, like she can't get a pin. I don't remember if it's 0 or 20, but it should be one of those two numbers, which are both effectively 0 to Orisa. I think it's 0. Yeah. And again, we talked about the problem here. Like, you had to look at this and go, okay, well, I guess I'll go here and play this super passive. Like, if you were going to take space plaster barrier, it had to be like well, I'm just going to put pressure on them. We can't really advance again until I have another cooldown to advance with. Yeah, no, she's great. Orisa's okay. Like, for the Dinkcast, Orisa's okay. Orisa on release maybe had some design issues, but design-wise, the hero is relatively fine. Obviously, Halt used to be amazing, is still good. And the extra 50 health helped a lot. I'm not convinced the extra 50 health was necessary, but they were trying to move barrier health to health to, end barrier watch. So I understand it, even if I don't like it. Of course, I liked it when Pulse Bomb eliminated Orisa, or left her at 5 HP. No, eliminated her, because you get the 5 damage from the stick. No, you get like 2 damage from the stick. Left her at like 3 HP if you Pulse Bombed an Orisa, and she didn't fortify. Those were fun. Those were fun. Obviously, functionally meant she was eliminated. Okay, so I don't like this because, again, you've put this barrier down here, and I'm not convinced that you're not going to want to get more aggressive. This barrier is you putting your line in the sand. This is my line in the sand. Well, this isn't a good enough line in the sand. I'm not at all convinced that you don't want a deeper line in the sand. You follow what I'm saying? Like, you can use this and then dance with it and try to fight these guys, but I'm not convinced that this line in the sand is the one you want. It's a pretty big committal to drop your barrier. Yeah, I'd sure like to be able to push up further forward. I'd like to be able to take a better spot. Even if my line in the sand was right here, that would be better, but I'm not convinced that I don't want my line in the sand up here. Or even here, or more like here, while I play from here. Okay. She needs more movement speed. She could get a little more movement speed. Ryan got a movement speed buff for when his shield is up. I think Flank Orisa is very underrated, especially in Masters and above. Fair take. I remember when Hanzo just deleted Orisa with his meme out. Yeah. I think she felt real squishy when they brought her back down to 400 health for a month last year. What was her barrier health at that point? I don't remember. That's the ground. I don't know why we're shooting the ground. I don't know why we're shooting. Oh, because we're trying to delete that. Okay, but I don't like this barrier because I'm looking at this barrier and going, where are you actually playing? Because if this barrier breaks, your cover's back here. So, like, if you want to throw the barrier here and play here, you could do that. But really, I don't want you here. I also don't want you waiting that long for a barrier. I want you playing where, when the barrier breaks, you have cover. This is 600 HP. That is not a lot of HP. You really didn't need that reload. I mean, like, if we look at this, fine. Not much accuracy here, but you don't need this reload. You can just back to here and keep shooting. You still have, what, 60 shots, 50 shots? Yeah, 50 shots. You're fine. I get your health's a little low, and that's part of why you're going to cover. But I'm not convinced you're staying out of this fight. Fortify. Cool. Cool. Why? You have a barrier down. It's not doing you a bunch of amazing things. You have a fresh barrier. What is this helping you with? Are you afraid of Shatter? He hasn't done much work. He's not close to Shatter. Your old barrier was also there doing things. This barrier isn't better for you. And if this barrier isn't for this Reinhardt, if this barrier is for the future for some reason, it's still not in a great spot. Cool. Okay. Is Orisa worth learning for someone already competent with Ryan and Winston? Yes, but the reason she's worth learning is because you may find at some point in the future of your Overwatch playtime, you want to play on a team, and if you already play Reinhardt and Winston, you're building yourself out as a main tank player. And Orisa is a main tank who will see play in some metas.
For optimal chance of survival, stay in range of my barrier.
400 health with 600 barrier still. That was when she had the 2 extra halt, the extra halt distance. Yeah, so that makes sense because it was poor barrier uptime with low health. I'm talking about original Orisa who had better barrier uptime. Yeah, you need to think about your shield more seriously. Think of it
5,
as the commit, as the go sign for your team, but also
1.
where are you placing it and where are you going to play from based on where you place it. Because your shield is very transient, temporary cover.
Activating the barrier.
Okay. I'm fine if you want to place it here. This is that's a reasonable spot. Okay. When this shield breaks in 1 second, what's your new cover going to be?
I'm taking care.
Okay.
I could use some assistance.
I recommend moving behind my barrier. The objective is
Fine. Leave. Leave. You're going to drop a new barrier here, but this Discord's never going to go away. Drop your barrier already. Oh, no. You can't do this. You can't do this. You don't have Fortify. You don't have good natural cover. You have, like, a 3 out of 10 natural cover right now. And you're forcing the reload in the open. I get what you're trying to do. You're thinking, I need to reload because what I'm working on is reload cancels. You don't need to go absolutely wild with your reload cancels. You want to try to get reload cancels where you can, but this is clearly occupying a little too much brain space, which is fine. It's okay that it's occupying too much brain space right now because that's what you're working on, but I can tell you this was overdoing it. This is something that you would pull back a little bit from. The tech is useful, the tech is good, but this is something that you try to pull back from a little bit. You would not be so focused on it once you get it down, at least, that you'd go, I am with a 3 out of 10 for cover, while discorded, while at 300 HP, going to go ahead and do my reload in the open and wait for it and go do that, etc. So I can do all this. Like that's not what we want. We wanted to be like, oh, I can't be here. I'm going to have to back. Oh, now the Discord's moving. That's weird. That just advanced a frame then because that Discord just moved because it was on you. We would not then go, oh, go do this. We'd actually back off and then retake with our barrier if we have to. We back off and retake with our barrier. We back off and clear the Discord and retake with our barrier. Yeah, you're just dancing this in the open here.
you are advised to
Okay.
move behind.
Okay. You don't have any tools. Get to cover.
Standing ground.
You do not need to reload here. You're reloading while your Fortify is up. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. This is so much damage lost.
For your own safety, get behind
Okay.
the barrier. Stop it.
Right idea with the halt. A little better tracking has that for you.
Barrier activated.
Again, that's not quite the reload we want. Like, I don't care about extending that barrier for my team. They're on their own.
Not budging.
And if ladder is the only plan, well, ladder might be the only plan for now, and that's fine. You can say, hey, ladder's my only plan, and you're probably fine with your Reinhardt and Winston. That said, main tank players are some of the most meta-slavish players out there. Like, if you want to do well above a certain SR, and you're as main tank, it's really tough to play against the meta as main tank. It's doable, but it's really tough. And that statement holds. It's also true in lower ranks, but the meta is different in lower ranks. The meta is why aren't you on Reinhardt? But more seriously, if really the only plan is to do ladder, you can do whatever you want, is the thing. Play what's fun for you. But you give yourself options by developing a main tank hero pool.
I must rejoin my team.
If Orisa is forced in meta, I'll just play Sigma or Roadhog. Okay, but so will everyone else.
Your safety.
Because a lot of people think she's boring. That's not helpful. You were trying to peel, though. That's fine.
Barrier in place.
You're not going to reload there? Interesting.
You are advised.
Okay, again, this is a shallow barrier that your team can't really advance with. This is very shallow. We wanted this barrier to be deeper. Maybe we didn't want it to be all the way up here, but we needed to put this at least like part way up, like here or something, so that our team has some ability to advance. It gives them some cover to go through here. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't even like the barrier. Timing.
You are advised to move behind my barrier.
My Hanzo's back here. My Anna's back here. Like, my Hanzo's not following up relevantly while this is here. My McCree is still rotating. Like, my team certainly can't commit off of this barrier. So I guess I'm just poking for a bit with this barrier. Which means my team can't make a real commit for 10 seconds. McCree isn't ready now. Hanzo isn't ready now. But I don't think it's going to be 10 seconds until they're ready. Do you? If it is, sure, you can do this, but I don't think it is. And this is what I'm talking about, where Orisa is not a hero about barrier, 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 barrier. Shoot, 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 shoot. Like, she's not about constant uptime. Her barrier is Winston's equivalent of leaping in, sort of. Reinhardt's equivalent of walking forward with his shield up. Like, this is I'm making a play with this type thing. And your team is not ready for you to make a play. So your Sigma's trying to get more aggressive because he doesn't like how shallow your barrier is. Your Hanzo is now here fighting things, and your McCree is now fighting as well. It would sure be nice if you were a very credible threat right now, because your McCree is making a play. And it sort of worked out.
This will be your shield.
People get particularly tilted if you back off and kite as Orisa. Yep, they do. They do. And they also don't notice when you work up a significant lead for them. They're like, why is our tank never pushing? Meanwhile, you're sitting there and going, everyone on the opposing team is at 60% life. Can we just finish someone off? Like, connect with a shot, guys. But hey, what are you going to do?
Stop right there.
Heroes never die.
And to be fair, that's not me saying that Orisa shouldn't advance. Orisas do advance. That is how you win fights. Every team style wins the final fight in the brawl, but for some types of teams, that final fight, that brawl, is just a cleanup phase. And depending on what your composition is, you might need eliminations before Orisa is willing to push into the cleanup phase. If your team is pretty brawly outside of the Orisa, you might just need some cooldowns out. You might just need some health removed from the other team before you really advance into the cleanup brawl stage, etc. But anyway, back to this. I live in hope Orisa has returned to her former glory in Overwatch 2. She hasn't been out of the spotlight that long.
I must rejoin my team.
Activating the barrier.
But sorry, I get the impression that double shield is a meta that Overwatch devs are going to try to avoid. I think they're going to try to keep Orisa plus another barrier out of the meta, and I think it would be very hard to get Orisa in the meta without getting another barrier into the meta right now. You would have to make Reinhardt and Sigma both weaker.
Help me.
That's not fair. You'd have to make Sigma weaker. Okay.
Routing navigation system
Why though?
to defense.
Like, yeah, I don't mind using your Fortify to rotate, and I actually don't mind you going, hey, we're going to off-angle like this, but I don't need this fight. I'm perfectly happy to go, yep, that's cool, and I'll wait here. I'm perfectly happy to wait here. I don't need to push this. I don't need to do work right now. I do not in any way need to take this fight. Oh, no. You're playing Uptime Orisa here. Doesn't make sense to be playing Uptime Orisa. Your Anna's back here. Your Hanzo is still checking the flank. Your McCree's kind of ready. Your Sigma's kind of ready. Your Hanzo was almost ready, but this is like almost ready now that you've spent Fortify and Halt. Like, you're not particularly useful right now.
I recommend moving
Oh,
behind
okay.
the barrier.
Okay.
Cease your resistance.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, that was what I was afraid of. You see this? When they're actually pushed up here, it's not working. It's not working. So if you're going to do this, you needed to take a more aggressive space. You needed to be like, nope, it's a forward barrier. My line in the sand is further forward. And now my supercharger reaches across. And if you want to turn to deal with me and my supercharger, I'll body block it. I'll guard it. My shield's protecting it. I will fortify it to protect it. I'll tuck it behind this. So it's going over there. Like, those are all things we'd be thinking of.
Not so fast.
Okay. Probably not. With your barrier 1 second away, you probably just wait the extra second and then do a barrier, on the other side of this lip and go shoot, go up to here and shoot through it, go up to here and shoot through it, go up to here and then scoot to the side as it gets weak. Like, that's more your play, rather than when your barrier is like an instant from being back, popping your Fortify. It's cheaper to use. It's cheaper. That's not fair. You don't want to use your Fortify when you're going to then end up barriering immediately afterwards anyways. Like, I think you did. Yeah. You've still got almost half, a third of your Fortify left, and you just used your barrier. And so now this Fortify, what's left of it, isn't getting much value.
You're not getting away.
Okay.
Barrier activated.
Healing stream engaged.
Oh, right, that's true. In Overwatch 2, there won't be 2 tanks, so double barrier is not a thing. You're right, they can let her exist if they don't have to worry about it attacking.
Behind the
Okay,
barrier.
again, you're throwing this barrier up here, and your team is not ready, I repeat, not ready to punish this. This is a great thing to punish. It's not as good as the last map was for it, but it's a good thing for poke teams to punish them on the way in because their cover isn't very good. But you guys weren't up forward fast enough because you didn't wipe them hard enough and cleanly enough to have been like, yes, now we're set, now let's push. This barrier is like, aha, I've pushed down a barrier that really just I am using. Not good enough. And it doesn't need to be other people using your barrier like standing behind it. It needs to be them in positions where, aha, my Orisa being present and shooting helps. So you being present and shooting helps your Hanzo that's firing from over there, helps your McCree that's fighting from over there, helps your Echo that's fighting from up there, etc. You being present and shooting, and you can stay present and shooting if you have a barrier up or available. You can't. If your barrier breaks right now, then these guys get in here and you're like, shoot, my barrier's 4, 6, 3, whatever seconds away. Very general question here. What would you say are the most important concepts of playing Rein? I have a Reinhardt mini guide where I go over 3 aspects of Reinhardt that are very important, specifically holding corners, fire strikes, and what do I go over? Swinging. I don't even remember what the third thing I go over is. Fire strikes, corners, and shield, maybe? That's probably what I go over. That's not everything you need to know about Rein, but those are, for most players, not everyone, but for most players, going to be the lowest hanging, easiest to improve on things. That's the easiest gains, least investment for the return. I'd go check that out. And you can just go to my channel and hit I put that stuff in a playlist, and it's Hero Mini Guides. It's the playlist.
For your own safety,
Fine.
get behind the barrier.
Still fine. You guys might be thinking, why was that fine? Like, they obviously weren't going to be able to take them down in that. If you were really good, what you'd have tried is... No, you don't have it. No, you don't have your bear. Oh, I rewound too far. Okay, let me go back.
For your own safety,
Rather,
get
I
behind-
didn't rewind far enough.
For your own safety,
If you were
get
really good,
behind
what
the
you'd have
barrier.
done here is you'd have thrown your barrier further forward, and you'd have halted them while they're in the dragon, still in the dragon, to be split by your barrier to try to get the dragon to eliminate someone. But that would have been the high risk move.
Don't move.
This is still good because it keeps them back. It's stopping this Transcendence team from advancing. And you're creating a possibility, if a small one, that you're going to force burst elimination between dragon damage and regular damage. Split trance. Split the trance with your shield. So I'm talking like a, hey, let's pretend that the dragon is going through this right here. You try to hit your halt to pull them all up here and go, hey, we've pulled everyone up. And the Zen, you are then trying to go, hey, I'm going to keep the Zen. I'm trying to pull them sort of on this side, but I want someone to fall on this side of the bear because they won't stay all together like that. Yeah, like I said, very high risk and low probability, but fun. Certainly clip worthy if you get him.
Barrier activated.
It's not an amazing halt. So like that's scary.
Barrier
You do this,
activated.
and it's okay. Like, it's okay as a barrier. But what I'm really going to get into here is that's just a further halt than you need. You can have thrown this halt much more shallow than you did. A halt right here, right into the ground is just fine with you. It's totally fine. I don't know why you're trying to, like, throw this further, pull him back. I don't care if we pull the Zen back or not. I just want the halt to slow the Zen. Because even when the Zen gets hit by the halt, it's then going to bring his speed to 0, bring him to where the halt is, and if that brings him back, great. But even if it doesn't bring him back, even if the halt doesn't move him at all, it's still going to turn him to 0, and it's actually going to leave him slowed. It's going to leave him with a pretty meaningful slow for like half a second or something along those lines. And that's plenty of time. If I know where he's going to be, and then he's got a significant slow on him for half a second, that's plenty of time for you to eliminate the Zen with headshots. And he can't shoot at you through the barrier. And again, it doesn't matter if that happens right here on the ground, right in front of your bear. He's so slow from the halt that it's fine. You don't need to pull him way back with this halt to beat him. You're trying to make your halt do too much. Fortify, leave.
Here.
If you're lost, find new cover. Exactly.
Please move behind the barrier.
Okay. So just back off to new cover. You can literally be like, yep, there's 3 people on point. There's no reason I can't play from right here. There's no reason, especially when there's this Pharah and things doing things that I don't like. I will back off and play from here, and it's going to be fine. I don't need to just be on the point hoping my cover holds, my barrier holds. Bye, Orisa!
I recommend moving behind my barrier.
You can't peel a Reinhardt with a barrier. It's not a thing.
Routing navigation system.
Aim's a little lazy there. Aim's been a little lazy in general, but I'm used to that for main tank players. It's hard to describe, but once you actually like start aiming with Orisa, your aim doesn't have to be great, but once you're serious about like, no, I'm actually going to try to aim, and I'm actually going to try to lead this squishy target that I'm shooting at, you will unlock a like new level, their head hitbox. I'm giving them a tiny little head hitbox. Once you actually like, no, I'm leading that, I'm aiming at that, I'm leading that, I'm going to put pressure on it. You're not going to suddenly get a ton of eliminations on those, though you'll get some, especially if you get good at your halt usage. But what you're going to get is you're going to get them terrified, and you can do damage. Like, you're not going to get a ton more eliminations. You're going to get them to run scared so much faster, though, when you get a little less lazy about your aim. And I don't mean to be like disparaging about that. I don't mean to be like your aim sucks, etc. But like once you go, no, I'm going to try, I'm going to do this. It doesn't take very long at all for your aim to hit a new level of, oh, this is really threatening. And then if you stop playing Orisa for a while, it'll go away because you don't get a ton of great aim practice on tanks, on main tanks rather. Yeah. I have to pay lots of attention to that to hit shots. Yep, I understand. I understand. It's a pretty good return on investment, though. And once you get to that aim threshold won't like hard stick for you. But if you keep playing Orisa, it'll stick for you. Hard when being pressured. Yep. I think we're gonna work on your barrier placement first, before we work on your aim. But really putting some thought into hitting the shots is going to be in your future. Whether it makes the list today or not, we'll see. But it's going to be in your future.
By your side, man.
You're always very charming.
Mm-hmm.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
My will made real. My will made real.
You are
Okay.
advised to move behind
So it's a
the barrier.
little bit shallow. It's not bad, but it's a little bit shallow. Like up here where your Sigma's barriers could be a little bit better because it lets you push up and go, I'm holding here and I can tuck in here. Or maybe you end up staying here, but it gives you the option to push a little bit. You don't want to send it way up here where it's totally exposed to extra fire that it wouldn't be, but like just up a little more forward because this is kind of shallow. You can't take any more space off of this, and I'm not convinced that you don't want to take some more space off of this. Like there's a very real situation where you get work done on these guys and you would like to be able to push up and finish off a squishy back there. But you're going to have to commit your fortify if you do that now. Just bring it to a corner. Okay.
You're not getting away.
Okay. Fortify, advance. You don't need to back off this hard. You have new corner you can push to. You have a new corner that you can push to. A little scary with the fair there, but you do. And by the time this fortify is over, you will have a new barrier.
System malfunction.
Yep.
For your safety, please move behind the
See,
barrier.
and this more forward barrier lets you push up here to finish people off.
The objective is now
That's to your left.
routing navigation systems to defense.
Excuse me? Why are you gold?
For your own safety, get behind the barrier.
So passive. You don't have Fortify available because you just wasted it, and now you've put your barrier here, super passive, when you were clearly in the cleanup stage of a fight. You might as well AFK for the rest of this fight, because you're not doing anything. Like, oof. You see that, right? Like, the gold, I'm sure, was just a mistake, and you're kicking yourself having seen that, but you use the gold like that, and then with this barrier here, you can't do anything. Whereas if you get more aggressive with this barrier, you can still barrier dance it. This isn't a normal stage of a fight. This is a cleanup stage, so if you want to throw your barrier just in the middle of this room, where you don't have any cover except the barrier, if you go in here and fight, that's okay, because you'll barrier dance with the barrier, and you're just using it for the cleanup stage of a fight. You're allowed to take the extra risk of I don't have cover to retreat behind, and your team would very much like to push into here to get this cleanup, to create this situation where a fair slams them from here. That's your fair, right? And you guys go in and fight them in here. But now you dropped your barrier. Your Sigma dropped his barrier. Like, ugh, yuck. You don't have Fortify. They're probably going to get away.
Get into position.
I'm sad. That should have been a fat stagger. Okay. Who are you aiming at? Someone behind Reinhardt back there, sure. Don't know who you're aiming at. That's too far a lead for you to be shooting at Zarya, and it's not a lead at all for shooting at the Reinhardt. So I don't know who you're shooting at. Still don't know who you're shooting at. If you're shooting at Reinhardt, that's not right. Still don't know who you're shooting at. Okay, now you're shooting at the Reinhardt, but you're not leading at all. Reinhardt has been giving you leftwards momentum this whole time, and you're still shooting to the right of him. Still don't know who you're shooting at. Still don't know. Oh, Reinhardt. Not high enough. He's a tank. He's got a big head hitbox. You should hit it as Orisa. Little better. Would still rather this aim lifted just a touch. Good. Good. You can drag this aim a little further to the right. Like, you know his head hitbox is to your right, and he's coming forward on your McCree. Like, I want you trying to aim here type thing, and he'll be walking into it. Okay. Back to this. I do not like that reload. You have 60 shots. You can do tons of work right now. And you've still got armor. You're still fortified for 2 seconds. You should be trying to back out, but you should be shooting. Preferably at the Zarya in your face. Preferably at the Zarya in your face. You should not be reloading. No, you still have 55 shots. If you'd been shooting the whole time, maybe you could be reloading now. But you weren't. And you hit the reload tech, and that helps, but it's only, like, the reload tech is only helping you. It's okay. You're trying to learn the reload tech, so I'm totally fine with it. It's totally fine that you're messing it up as you're investing in learning it, etc. But I hope you see that if you're having to spend this much time thinking about it, which won't be the case in the future, but if you're spending this much time thinking about it, this much time not shooting before you get to it, you're missing out enough time to miss out on what it gains you on the back end, if that makes sense. On what it gains you of, hey, I canceled the back third of my reload or whatever. 40%, 30%, whatever it is of the reload. Like that, it matters absolutely, but it's requiring too much thought right now. So you definitely need to keep working on this. And I don't mind that it's messing you up right now. I just hope that you recognize that it's messing you up right now. And this is something that we'll have to iron out. If you see that, great. If you don't, I hope I've called attention to it. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, please let me know. Fine. Good pressure. Little out in the open, but you'll have a barrier in a second. Okay. Again, I don't need this reload. Like, you're still at 47. I'd prefer you to be a little lower. Like, this is still a third of your clip. I don't need you to barrier for a third of your clip when this fight is happening, necessarily.
I recommend moving behind.
Because at some point, it would be like any other hero where you hit unnecessary reload territory. Ooh, it hurts. It hurts. It hurts. Speaking of reloads. And then you don't even quite get the reload to the cancelable spot before you use the supercharger. Oh boy.
This will heal you.
What are the worst maps to play Winston on? And maybe Ryan would be the better choice. Winston doesn't really have a ton of terrible maps. Winston has some bad points. Winston doesn't love... Generally, as you get towards the end of maps on payload maps, they get more confined. And as they get more confined, Winston gets a little less happy. So you might be like, hey, I'm playing Winston on first and second of Route 66, and then on third, I'm choosing to play Ryan. Winston's fine there, but you might choose to. An example where he actually gets meaningfully worse would be Numbani. Third point, Numbani, Winston doesn't have a lot of aerial stuff to go do with. There's some of the planters that he can hop on, but those aren't great in terms of high ground, in terms of his ability to use them as cover. The only real high ground is right at the beginning of third point. So, like, well, there's also something at the end on the side, but his high ground options aren't great. So that would be a point where Winston is just not loving it and is probably going to swap to Reinhardt, for example, if your hero pool is Winston and Reinhardt. And you'll see that if you keep your eye open on third point for a lot of maps. But back to the review.
This is my will.
Barrier activated.
Again, you're deploying this barrier like preemptively thinking, oh, this will be fine, but it's not because it's a 10-second cooldown and they're going the other way. And this is your battle line that you've drawn, and for the next 10 seconds, or until it breaks, this is what you're committed to. Not going to work. Okay. What? Excuse me? I guess that was aimed this way. I guess.
Heroes never die.
Why?
Please move behind the barrier.
No one's shooting at you. No one's shooting at you at all. I don't need a barrier. If I was going to deploy a barrier, it would be more here, where it's protecting me sort of from these two angles, but it's also partially protected itself by the pillar. But I don't need a barrier right now.
Stop right there.
Now you're getting to dance with the barrier. You can't. You can't. You're just going to get eliminated here.
I'm not.
Good, melee. Good.
Allow me to repair the damage.
Step right up.
Into the iris.
Okay.
Victory.
So, your barriers are going to be the thing. How do I want to cover this? So, what I'm going to start with is I'm first going to say keep working on the reload cancel thing, because while you're getting it okay right on the back end, it's using so much brain power for you and you're so worried about hitting it that you're missing a lot of time to do damage on the front end, and you're also willing to do it at too high of ammo counts. 50 ammo and even 40 ammo aren't great ammo counts to do it at, and yeah, like, you don't want to. It doesn't take very long to throw a barrier down and keep shooting. It does take a fair amount of time, especially if people are low health in front of you, to be like, no, I'm at 30 ammo and I have a barrier, so let me pause, stop my shooting, let these low health people get healed back up, and now I can shoot them again. Oh no, they're at 80% life again. How annoying. So there is some level of judgment that goes into it. It's not an automatic, I'm low ammo, so I'm definitely going to reload cancel this, though it is a fair amount of time gain for your total pressure that you put on the team. There's exceptions you make to it. But my big concern with your reload cancels right now is at the front end, you're thinking too hard about it, which is fine. You're going to think hard about it right now, but it's causing you to not take shots that are there. You're not spending your ammo down enough. You're like pre-thinking about it and still at 50 ammo when you could have been at 30, still at 40 ammo when you could have been at 25, etc., because you stop shooting and start thinking about it really hard, etc. So like it's taking you a little too long to do that right now. So I would keep working on that. That's just the slight adjustment I'd make, because I can see you've done work. You've done work and that's good, but it's not going to pay you dividends on that work yet, because the work that you've done has created another equally big problem, and we'll have to now solve that problem. And once we've solved both problems, it's going to be great. Okay. After you think you've got this worked in, I'm going to go ahead and say work on your barriers. Now, you need to understand that your barriers want to do a couple things. Your barriers are your line in the sand is the big thing. Like, your barrier is your line in the sand. So you better make sure your barrier is in a place where you're comfortable it will continue to be useful if the fight evolves at all. Not just, hey, it's here and, well, shoot. If I want to follow up and get a finish, I can't. If I want to follow up and get a finish, I can't. Like, this is all that I can do. Maybe this is okay, but maybe it's not. Like, you need to be thinking, or, I'm here and I put a barrier in front of me while I'm fighting the run. I don't just put my barrier down as cooldown. My barrier is one of my space-taking tools. Like, I threw a barrier forward. That is one of my serious space-taking tools. And if my barrier is here and I don't have Fortify, I can't really go around and chase that. I can't really go around and help here. Like, I have to be aware of what I'm doing with my barrier. Can I go around a little bit and play with the cover to go around? Yes. But I lose a lot of ability to follow in here aggressively if I've committed my barrier too passively when I shouldn't have. So like I want a little bit more of a thought of what do I need to do with this barrier? What am I going to need to do? How aggressive can I make it? It doesn't always need to be just right in front of my feet. I also want your barriers to be on corners, especially early barriers in fights should be on corners where you can be like, or in front of corners. Like if the barrier's up here, but you're back here, that's fine. But you should have a corner when your barrier's in play so that you can shoot and then go, up, my barrier's going to break and I'm here. My barrier breaks and I'm here. That's the thing. That's where you should be. You shouldn't be caught here when your barrier breaks. That shouldn't happen. You should be here when your barrier breaks. Here when your barrier breaks. So in general, think of your barriers as extending your existing cover. Like your barrier could be where it is right now, or it could be further up, but either way, you're here and it's extending your cover. So your cover doesn't end here anymore. Now your cover ends over here, and this is the temporary space of your cover. It's extending that. It's buying you temporary space, and you're good with that because you can immediately convert it to more permanent space, or more permanent cover, rather. The final thing on your barriers is going to have to be your engagement timings. Remember, it's a hard committal of your barrier. Like it is a big commit from you to throw down your 10-second cooldown that only has 600 HP. It is not just resource trade barriers, resource trade barriers, resource trade barriers. Orisa is not played like that in the modern era with her current barrier design. It is a when I put my barrier down. When I put my barrier down, is my McCree ready to peek? Is my Tracer ready to go in? Is my hog ready to go for a hook? Whatever, like, are people ready? Putting your barrier down is the same check. You do a similar check before you put your barrier down, before you extend your hard cover into temporary cover, would be a similar check that you'd make on Ryan of where are my teammates? Are they ready to go? The cooldown is too long to just constantly throw barriers out there. There's exceptions to this, of course. There's like, at the very beginning of a match, you might, on defense, throw a barrier up in the sky, etc., to have your triple stacked barrier type thing. Sure, you could do that because it's not really a big committal for you at that point. But when you're aggressively taking space like that, it's a big question of, is my team ready? When you're pushing in, it's the putting down a barrier is a committal for your team. And your team better be ready for it, otherwise you're not controlling engagement timings. And controlling engagement timings is the essential skill for main tank players. Okay, I gave you 3 different things to work on barrier, and I told you to work on your halts and not your halts, your, I guess it was a barrier thing, but your reload cancels it away. So I sort of gave you 4 different aspects of your barrier to think about. That's really too much and more than I usually give you, but a lot of this dovetails and weaves together nicely, specifically the latter 3. So I'm hoping that doesn't overwhelm you. Might be leaving you with a little too much. Just break it down, focus on one thing at a time. If you have questions about points 2, points 3, points 4, by all means, let me know if you do. Feel free to reach out to me after this video via DM if you've lost something, and feel free to refer back to the video to rewatch it because I'm giving you a lot of things. They're all very closely tied to the same ability, but I'm giving you a lot of things here to sort of break your mold of your understanding of what Orisa does and try to remake this in a better way. Okay, if people have questions, go ahead and throw them up in chat now. If you guys are enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe, as that helps me out quite a bit, and I really do appreciate it. Or if you are looking to get coaching yourself, you can join my Discord in the description below, see what rates look like, see what sort of promos, special events we have going on, all that good stuff. I'm going to give it just a second for questions. I see an all right thanks from the reviewee, so I think that probably means we're good to go. Thanks, guys. Temporal out. Oh, hold on. Follow-up question. What are the best maps to play Winston on? Gibraltar, Numbani first, to a slightly lesser degree second. Those are some of the probably top places for Winston. Those are probably some of the top places for Winston right there. You can make an argument for Ruins because Widow's so prevalent or has historically been so prevalent, though Ball in some ways does that sort of better. No, I'd say Winston is still better for that. Um, yeah, really, it's going to be anything where high ground is super prevalent, and the two that jump to mind are, like I said, there Gibraltar all the way through. It is Winston Central, and then first couple points on Numbani jump out at me. He's got a pretty good Anubis too, but that's a little more meta dependent. Kings Row, not as bad as you'd think. Not as bad as you'd think. Okay, that's gonna do it. Thanks, guys.